Minister, you're very welcome in this afternoon. So you refer to the 50% GDP and the 50% population calculation. Can you please clarify that this is the calculation in Article 44K of the Asylum and Migration Management Regulation, where it states that the share of solidarity contributions to be provided by each member state referred to in Article 44B2 shall be calculated in accordance with the formula set out in Annex 3. So in 2022, we had 5.1 million migrants came to the EU from outside the EU. Has someone in your department ran the calculations?
So it's not about the overall numbers, this is just about the relocation.
Yes, what are the numbers though? Do you know how many people would we have been required to take in 2022 if this was the law?
So the figures that you're quoting, I think, are migration numbers. They're not asylum numbers.
They are migration numbers, yes.
Yes, so that's not.
So based on those
that's not
migrants,
people applying for asylum, though.
But can you base the figure? Can you base your figure on that? If we had 5.2, wars happen all the time. Crises are going to happen all the time. So based on something that might happen in the future, and we have 5.1 million migrants coming to the EU from outside the EU. Has someone in your department ran the calculations on that, on what our figure would be?
So firstly, that's a migration figure. It's not people applying for asylum. So no, we haven't done a figure on that because it doesn't apply in any way, shape or form. The 2.16%, which is calculated via GDP and population, only applies to the reallocation or to the solidarity mechanism. And what's clearly set out is that 30,000 is the figure that can increase. It will not increase to 5. Well, I can't see ever a situation where that would increase. Well, I've run
the figure, and the figure is just over 100,000. So, how could we possibly handle a minimum of 100,000 migrants at any point in the coming years?
We're not asking anyone to do that.
At the end of the day, it could happen. It could happen. So,
hold for a second. Sorry. So, Deputy Farrell is making an intervention. I think the deputy is entitled to make whatever points she wants. We can agree or disagree or take views on them, but I don't think interventions are necessary. I suppose the only thing I would say, Senator Keogan, is
at this moment in time, Chair, you know, I think it's important that we put the figures out there in relation, and it's important that the information that we're saying here is actually factual. Yeah, and when the department don't actually know what that figure might be.
Yeah, let me speak. I'm assisting you. I'm coming to your assistance. I'm supporting your right to speak. But you have to respect everyone else as well. So I'm actually coming to your aid here, if you listen carefully to what I'm saying. Now, you can continue your intervention, your contribution. The only thing I would say might be helpful is, if you're talking about figures like the 5.1 million migrants, the Minister suggested that includes legal migration, so people coming to work, etc., with visas and everything in proper order. I do think it would be helpful to have an understanding of that, certainly for my assistance, to understand if that is the figure, if it does embrace all those categories as the Minister suggested. If it does or doesn't, you might clarify that for the benefit of the committee, because that will then feed into our deliberations and to save us having to come back to you at a future date to ask you to clarify that figure. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
You may continue.
Minister, this document here in relation to the crisis and forced majeure, it's like 80 odd pages long, 83 pages long. I'm not too sure whether anybody in the department has actually read the document, or whether any fluent or native speaker read this document at all. A review of the crisis and force majeure regulation is nothing short of legally ambiguous, phrasing at best. At worst, it's an insult to the English language speakers. It is of crucial importance that language within legislation is clear. Judges, courts, lawyers, police, border and control agents, social workers and all kinds of department officials will depend on these documents when rulings and enforcing the wording of these documents come into law. So let's start on page 4. I mean, every single one of them. Every single one of them, Minister. There's a problem with. But let's go to page 4. Page 4. Section 3 has a sentence that says, the Union has at its disposal specific rules to effectively manage migration, in particular the triggering of a mandatory solidarity mechanism and that all the necessary measures are put in place to prevent crisis to happen. That is awful English. It should say from happening. Page 24. Let's go to page 24. Section 40 says, the member states facing a situation of crisis or force majeure may need more time to be able to take decisions on their applications without allowing entry into the territory. It should not say without, but instead say before. Otherwise, a literal reading of this could be interpreted as preventing entry if more time is needed. The problem is this sentence is far too unclear. So this document is littered with sentences of this nature. It's actually gibberish, to tell you the truth. So I want to know, how can you transpose this document into Irish law when it's not coherent? So that's that question there. The other document, I struggled to get through all these documents, but I got two of them with the help and support of a number of people. The Asylum and the Migration Management Regulation. So, 47. The scope of the definition of family should reflect the reality of current migratory trends, according to which applicants should often arrive to the territory of the Member States after a prolonged period of time in transit. The definition should therefore include families formed outside the country of origin and before their arrival on the territory of the Member State. So, what is the reality of current migratory trends, and why should our definition of family be redesigned to fit this vague criteria? Families formed outside the country of origin, who's to decide whether a family has been formed? Is there an objective criteria like marriage or a civil partnership? If this happens outside the country of origin, how do you prove that? Moreover, will the EU Commission be in the role of deciding what is the definition of a family? And will that durable relationship that you all wanted to get in on March the 8th now become part of this?
I think we might have strayed slightly out of the scope of the pact, but in any event, if the Minister wants to answer any of those points, she may, you should like to do so.
Just, I suppose, to reassure the Senator that these are documents that have gone through extensive engagement with legal teams, legal professions, legal translators, and we then as a country transpose this legislation and obviously do so with yourselves and other colleagues across both houses, and to assure the Senator that my team and others have gone through this in great detail. So the language that is and has been settled on has gone through many processes and many stages. In terms of the family unit, we apply that here ourselves in terms of what that looks like, and we obviously have a definition for that here.